Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS-Inform. Joining me in the studio is State Senator Mark Messmer for District 48, and he's here to kind of catch us up on what's happening in the legislation in Indianapolis. Senator, welcome to the show.
Great to be here again. We are getting close to the end of the first half.
Hard to believe.
We wrapped up committee work this week. We've probably passed, I'm going to guess around 120 plus bills, already, and over the next few days we'll probably wrap up another, 50 to 60. So, it's been a busy first half of session, and I've gotten several bills, passed out the first half that I'm pretty happy about, and a couple of them that, that came out of committee this week that we should wrap up next week on the floor.
Okay, and then we get it. Is there an intermission?
There is sort of an
Like
intermission. Next week we'll wrap up on Wednesday. So Thursday and Friday we have off. Normally have Fridays off anyway. We'll have Thursday and Friday off next week. So we get a short break.
But when you start your second half, there's things that will carry over from the first half to that. It's not like you're starting a whole new. Okay.
Right, because all of the bills that we pass the first half of Senate, they'll get assigned to House committees. And so starting the first week of March, those bills, our Senate bills, get assigned to House committees, and then we'll work with the chairman of those committees again and try to make sure we get an opportunity to have a hearing, at the House committee level. And all of the House bills that come to the Senate, they'll get assigned to our committees, and we'll sort through and try to schedule hearings on their bills. And so, the bills that pass the first half, it's the first hurdle that you clear, but it doesn't mean, normally, it's not unusual when those bills switch chambers for them to get, extra refining. You hope to have your bill as close to done as you can when it leaves your original committee, but it doesn't mean, as people are looking into the fine details, you find little bits and pieces that you need to, continue to adjust. But you normally know the first half, well, we do have a committee hearing. The second half we can amend again, or on the floor, in the other chamber it could get amended again. And I would say probably 75% of the bills that go from one chamber to the other get some additional adjustments made to them. So then that sets up the opportunity to either agree to the changes that they made. They call that a concurrence, and then you have to pass it again in the original House or Senate chamber, or go to conference committee. And I didn't really like, that part of it that they changed, and then you try to work out differences and come out with a, what they call a committee report that you've House and Senate, Democrat, Republican, have agreed to make some final adjustments, and then that conference committee report goes back to each body to get passed one more time. So lots of room for things to blow up.
Well, when do we hope these things get done? By the beginning of May, April?
Our cutoff deadline is April 29th.
Okay. Can you go beyond that?
No.
Okay, so
no.
29. But maybe before that, if
could get done early.
Okay.
We have occasionally gotten done early.
I doubt it. You're politicians. Everybody's got to talk too much.
Yeah. And we're really good at procrastinating and waiting till the last available moment. But in reality, when the budget projections, when the income projections come out on April 15th, that kind of sets the final adjusting to the budget. And our leadership always says, once that budget bill finishes its final adjustments, whether the income is up or down, then they'll go back to the school funding formulas and that'll be the most significant thing we deal with this year is how much extra money are we going to get through, for K through 12 education. So that'll be the final adjusting we do that last 10 days, and leadership says don't sit around and wait too long, because if your bill's not done and that budget bill's done, if that budget would get done a couple days early, we could realistically, when that's done, that's what we have to do. Everything else that we do is sometimes necessary and prudent to do, but what we have to do is the budget. When the budget's done, we'll probably adjourn and go home. So I usually try not to have anything in conference committee languishing, because that last couple of days, things get pretty hectic. And so I try to make sure anything I've got in conference I get done, signed off early, and get to the floor as fast as possible.
Now, what are some bills that are kind of exciting for you to watch?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm pretty happy with I think I had filed 10 bills. A couple of them got amended into House bills during the first half of session. They were not big items. They were just adjustments to, to some tax code and to some utility, code. And I was able to work with House authors of bills. Once they get filed, you say, that might be a good place to go ahead and just put that item into another bill. So a couple of those got done, pretty quickly, and working with former House members. This past session, I got a bill that gives LP suppliers some ability to defend themselves in court if there's ever, an accident at a customer's home. Currently, they are considered at fault no matter what, some degree of fault no matter what. And if somebody tampered with an appliance or used a gas grill inside their house and burned their house down, if you supplied that product, you were automatically drug into settlement proceedings no matter what. And this gives the LP suppliers some ability to have what they call an affirmative defense. So that'll go to the House the second half. I'm glad that got moved through. I had a bill that a couple years ago we passed, tightening up prescribing of chemical abortion drugs, and part of the statute we passed that a couple years ago, a federal judge in December said, some of these are too specific to Planned Parenthood clinics, and if you're going to pass it, it's okay. But he pretty well clarified, here's what you wrote that was too specific to one type of clinic, and it needs to be generic enough to apply to any doctor, any hospital. So he wrote the ruling. He said, here's what you need to fix. We worked with the Attorney General's office, with the State Board of Health, with Planned Parenthood, with the Right to Life folks, everybody who had been involved with that bill a couple years ago, and got things cleaned up to where everybody's basically treated the same, and then we can have some tighter regulation of that. And it's really a woman's health issue. I mean, if somebody's being prescribed that type of product, they need to make sure they've got proper medical oversight, in case something goes wrong. So, got that done. My sales tax on data warehouses, which it would be the type of legislation that would anchor, get you an anchor data center for a group like Yahoo, Amazon, and 17 states treat that as sales tax exempt on their equipment, and that's where those facilities are going, is the states that give them good tax treatment. But they can be the anchor to then dozens of other service vendors, and these things consume a large amount of electricity. The typical data center of the size we're talking about would use the equivalent electricity of, say, 30 to 40,000 households. So they're a large power consumer, which, along with that, there's a lot of tax generation from that through, look on your utility bill and take your sales tax or your taxes that are a part of your bill and multiply that times 30,000. So, it's a significant, if you sales tax exempt their equipment, there's a lot of other, they're high-paying jobs, 100,000 plus jobs, and the ones that we're targeting would be 50 to 100 employees per site, and so there's a lot of things that go with that. But if we don't give them good tax treatment, they're just not going to come here.
Sure.
So, so those moved nicely. I had one that's going to help the school boards, or the library board here in Jasper, as they progress along their library project. It will allow them to pull in the Boone Township and Jasper Madison areas into the library board to be part of the referendum vote. If they do a new library project, it'll allow them to pick those areas up and not lose the current appointing the township trustee as advisory boards, and the city council currently get an appointment to that library board, and they'd be able to keep that and pull them into within the city limits into that library district. So Those all went well the first half, and I'll be getting several bills, I think, from House members in the second half, and should be. There's never a dull moment in the General Assembly.
There's always something going on. And we're getting ready to start the second half.
Yep, just around the corner.
Okay, so are there, what's happening with like the Sunday alcohol sales? Is that at a point where now you just got to wait till that second half?
We'll have to wait till the second half. It passed out of committee on the House side, and it'll be up for amending and final passage probably within the next couple days on the House side. It kind of took the shape that I thought it would, and if it passes in the House, it'll probably still get, here again, some fine tuning on the Senate side. And it really took the direction that I thought it would as it came out of committee on the House. Really no opposition to allowing the large retailers to have Sunday sales, but to keep the playing field level from package stores to big retailers. The House bill requires them to segregate their hard liquor into an area that can't be accessed, to people under 21.
Okay.
Currently, wine and beer and wine at the retail level, and even under the current House bill, would allow that to be in a general area, but all confined to one location, one aisle. But definitions and refinement of that, and how that hard liquor gets segregated. I mean, we'll continue to work through that. I don't think the large retailers are real happy about those expectations, but you can't get into a package store because they have hard liquor unless you're 21. And if we're going to allow Sunday sales for everybody, the large retailers are going to have to make that concession, or the bill won't likely get adopted without it. I've pulled that issue every other year for now. This is the third time, and every year it's about a 50-50 issue. So it'd be easier if it was 60, 70, 80% one way or another, but there's usually 45 to 50% in favor, against, a few undecideds, and it's kind of where it was. On my online surveys, it was slightly above 50% in favor, but really not much. I mean, that's an issue that there's the people that want it for convenience. The people that don't want it, because of religious tradition. Do we really need alcohol available 7 days a week? At the retail level. I mean, I understand that with some restrictions on display and selling of the product. It'll be allowed to move through the process. Whether the votes are there to pass it, who knows?
Is it one of those bills that may just not come to fruition because it may just keep getting stalled?
That's very possible.
And that's another thing with that could happen too.
Yep, like I said, all the
and that's happened for the past several years, right?
It's been filed, it's been heard, it's been discussed, and it's really come down to, the large retailers want it. They want the increased day with. They don't want any more restrictions. They don't want any more rules, in place to make that happen. The ones that have hard liquor only have it because they have a pharmacy, in their establishment. That hard liquor goes with the drugstore or the Walmart. Anybody that has it has a pharmacy license, and that's why they have hard liquor there. It's a controlled substance. It's a drug, and it's not. They say, well, our consumers won't want to come in and have to purchase their hard liquor, and then purchase the rest of their groceries. Well, they have a drugstore, a pharmacy.
You have to do that.
You have to do that at the pharmacy. So it's kind of a hollow argument, I think.
That's why we have you people hashing it out. All right. Thank you very much,
You're
Senator,
welcome.
for coming in. Our guest has been Senator Mark Messmer, who represents District 48. He comes in every Friday night after the legislation and joins us here on the TV. We really appreciate it. We thank you for watching WJTS. We're local people watching local people.